Upbeat, nostalgic synth-pop intro music fades in and then fades to a background hum. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're firing up the DeLorean, but we're not going back to the 80s. Nope, we're setting the dial to the decade of dial-up, flannel shirts, and boy bands, the 1990s. Get ready for a major nostalgia trip, because we're about to uncover some seriously all that in a bag of chips facts about the 90s that you probably never knew. Let's start with the internet. Remember that iconic dial-up sound? It was the soundtrack to our digital lives. But did you know that in 1995, only 14% of American adults had internet access? And of those, only a tiny fraction had it at home. Most people who surfed the web did so at work. It's wild to think that in just a few years, AOL and its famous You've Got Mail. Greeting will become a household staple. And that first ever banner ad, it appeared in 1994 on Hotwired, the precursor to Wired magazine. The ad for AT&T had a click-through rate of 44%. Can you imagine? Today, advertisers would do anything for a rate like that. The internet was so new and mysterious that people were just clicking on everything. Now, let's talk tech. The 90s weren't just about the web. They were the golden age of physical media. Remember the Sony Discman? It was the height of cool to walk around with your portable CD player. But here's a fun fact. The first models didn't have anti-skip protection. If you so much as jogged for the bus, your favorite Alanis Morissette track would jump all over the place. It wasn't until the mid-90s that ESP, or electronic shot protection, became a standard feature, finally allowing us to move and groove without interruption. And what about those see-through electronics? The iMac G3 in Bondi Blue wasn't just a computer. It was a fashion statement. Apple's design choice sparked a massive trend, leading to transparent phones, pagers, and even Nintendo 64 controllers. It was all about showing off the cool tech inside. Speaking of games, let's power up the nostalgia. Sega does what Nintendant was a marketing slogan that defined a generation of playground arguments. But here's something you might not know about the biggest game of the decade, Super Mario 64. It was revolutionary for its 3D gameplay and analog control, but the voice of Mario, Charles Martinet, reportedly got the audition information at the last minute. He crashed the audition as they were packing up and improvised a gruff Italian plumber voice, asking, "How about this?" The directors loved it, and the iconic "It's a me, Mario" was born right there on the spot. He'd never even heard of the character before that day. And how about pagers? Before everyone had a cell phone, these little boxes were the ultimate status symbol. You'd get a beep, and then have to run to the nearest payphone to call the person back. But did you know there was a whole secret language for pagers? Numbers were used to send coded messages. For instance, 143 meant "I love you," based on the number of letters in each word. 823 meant "thinking of you," and the classic 911 was, of course, an emergency. It was like the original form of texting, but way more cryptic and a lot more work. Let's move on to the world of film. The 90s were a blockbuster decade. Jurassic Park, released in 1993, changed cinema forever with its groundbreaking CGI. But the T-Rex roar wasn't just one sound. The sound designers combined a baby elephant squeal, an alligator's gurgle, and a tiger's snarl to create that terrifying, unforgettable sound. And what about Pulp Fiction? The film is famous for its non-linear storyline. But did you know the iconic dance scene with John Travolta and Uma Thurman was heavily inspired by a dance from the 1963 Fellini film 8½? Quentin Tarantino is famous for his homages, and this was one of his best. Also, the wallet that Jules has, the one that says "Bad Mother ... double quotes on it, it actually belonged to Tarantino himself. Now for a taste of the 90s. Literally, remember Crystal Pepsi? It was one of the most famous marketing flops of the decade. Launched in 1992, this clear cola was supposed to be a healthier, more pure alternative. but people were just confused. Why was their cola clear? It tasted slightly different, and the novelty wore off fast. It was discontinued in just over a year. On the flip side, a snack that absolutely dominated the 90s was the Dunkaroo. Those little packages of cookies with frosting for dipping were the holy grail of school lunches. What's crazy is that they were discontinued in the US for years, leading to a huge black market of fans importing them from Canada, where they were still sold. The demand was so high that General Mills finally brought them back in 2020. The power of 90s nostalgia is real. Let's tune into the music scene. The 90s gave us grunge, pop-punk, and the rise of the megastar diva. Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit became an anthem for a generation, but the title has a funny origin. Kathleen Hanna, the singer for the band Bikini Kill, spray-painted Kurt Smells Like Teen Spirit on Kurt Cobain's wall. Cobain thought it was a revolutionary statement about youthful rebellion. He didn't realize until much later that Teen Spirit was the brand of deodorant his girlfriend wore. He had literally just smelled like the deodorant. And what about the Spice Girls? Their girl power message was a global phenomenon. Each member had a distinct nickname: Scary, Sporty, Baby, Ginger, and Posh. But these names weren't invented by a marketing team. They were given to them by a journalist from a British magazine called Top of the Pops in a 1996 feature. And the names just stuck. The girls and their management loved them so much they adopted them as their official personas. Even our fashion had some weird history. Those slap bracelets that were everywhere? They were actually invented by a high school shop teacher in Wisconsin. He was playing with a steel ribbon, and voila, a toy craze was born. But they were quickly banned in many schools because kids were getting hurt when the metal would poke through the fabric. And what about Beanie Babies? People went absolutely crazy for them, thinking they would be a valuable investment. Some rare ones, like the Princess Diana bear, were fetching thousands of dollars online. People were convinced they were sitting on a retirement fund made of plush toys. Today, most of them are worth, well, about as much as a regular stuffed animal. It was one of the first speculative bubbles driven by the early internet. The 90s was also a decade of huge television moments. The finale of Seinfeld in 1998 was watched by an astonishing 76 million people. It was such a massive cultural event that on the night it aired, water usage in many cities dropped dramatically during the show and then spiked during the commercial breaks as everyone ran to the bathroom at the same time. And remember The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? There's a very famous emotional scene where Will breaks down after his father leaves him again. Will Smith actually improvised most of that scene. The script called for him to brush it off, but he was so invested in the moment that he just let the emotions flow. The hug from Uncle Phil at the end was a genuine, unscripted moment of comfort from actor James Avery. It became one of the most powerful and memorable scenes in sitcom history. The 90s were this incredible transitional decade. It was the last era before the internet completely took over our lives, a time of dial-up and Discman, blockbuster video rentals, and boy band hysteria. We were on the cusp of a new millennium, full of hope and maybe a little bit of Y2K anxiety. It was a time of unfiltered creativity and weird, wonderful trends that we still look back on with a smile. It was a decade that truly was all that and a bag of chips. What's your favorite memory from the 90s? A favorite song, movie, or a ridiculously oversized pair of jeans you used to own? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read them. Thanks so much for hanging out and taking this trip down memory lane with me. If you had fun, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure. See you in the next video.